Let me know when you're good. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, July 10th. We're going to go ahead and get started. We will now call the meeting to order. We will first hear the preamble and the meeting instructions.
In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law and Section 101.02, one of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conduct their meetings in a manner modeled after Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Recusals from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that online participants use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter submitted through proper channels have been considered. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Proper channels for comments are listed below. Communication with members of this body must follow proper channels for consideration. Any comments received by the Wednesday noon deadline are collected by city planning staff and disseminated to the commission members prior to any scheduled meeting. Proper channels for public comment. Sending an email to the cityplanning@clevelandohio.gov address with a comment or a letter. Calling and or leaving a message at 216-664-2210. Sending a letter or dropping off comments at City Hall. Meeting rules and procedures. The chair will call each agenda item, and then each applicant will be invited to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the commission in order to facilitate a smooth presentation. Once the presentation has concluded, the chair will ask planning staff to summarize Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations, if applicable, and any public comments received. Public comments received through the proper channels by the deadline are distributed to commission members prior to the meeting. Staff will also identify any members of the public present and scheduled to speak. Public comment is allowed at the discretion of the chair, and any individual providing public comment is permitted 2 minutes to speak to the agenda item in which they have an interest. The chair will then request a recommendation from staff, if applicable. The commission will then begin deliberations and project review. Any commission member, except the chair, may make a motion at any point after an agenda item has been called. Protocol for public comments. This meeting of Cleveland City Planning Commission is a lawful meeting that follows the following policies regarding public commentary per Section 605.04 of the codified ordinances. No person, with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting, shall do any act which obstructs or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting. Members of the public may provide public comment if required by law, in accordance with our rules, and sometimes at the discretion of the chair. Disruptions include, but are not limited to, speaking out of turn and or making loud utterances that interfere with the due conduct of this lawful meeting and may constitute a misdemeanor and a violation of Section 605.04. If this meeting is substantially disrupted, the chair will call for a recess and the room will be cleared. Persons who violate the city ordinances and commit misdemeanors may be subject to prosecution. When this body is able to return from recess, then in compliance with the Ohio Open Meeting Act, if applicable, and Section 101.02, one of the codified ordinances, the meeting will be open to the public.
Thank you, Evelyn. Can you please call the roll call?
Anthony.
Present.
Luker.
Present.
Gray Scott is not present. Sargent.
Present.
Slife. And Whitfield.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you so much. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the June 26th meeting. We've had a chance to review those in advance. May I please have a motion?
Madam Chair, I motion to approve June 26th meeting minutes as presented.
Madam Chair, I second the motion.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Anthony.
Yes.
Luker.
Yes.
Sargent.
Hey.
Slife.
Yes.
And Whitfield.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you so much. And Evelyn, just confirming, the first item we are going to postpone, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
we will have to vote on it.
So we will call for a motion, but just to read it for the record, wireless telecommunication facilities located at 3182 East 82nd Street will be postponed. May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, so moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Anthony,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Sergeant,
Yes.
Slife,
Yes.
and Whitfield.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you so much. Our first item up is Near West Design Review. This is PRJ 26-026927. This is located at West 61st Homes at Home Commons. May I please have the project representatives? Are you online? If you're here for this item, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Come on up. Yes, please. Have a seat, and then just hit the mic so that it's green, and then I'm gonna swear you both in. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth for this matter and hearing under penalty of perjury?
I do.
And your name, please?
Scott Wallenhorst.
Scott.
I do. Ryan Bodine.
Thank you. Welcome. Do we have the clicker for them? Or are you gonna do it, Evelyn? Okay. Hi, Brittany. Good morning. All right. Evelyn is gonna click
Okay.
through your slides here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, board, for hearing us today. So we were in front of the design review committee on Tuesday of this week. And so just so you're aware, we have gone ahead and already made the changes that they had requested from us or had brought to our attention. So we did send Brittany an updated set. It was last night, so you probably don't have that, but I will speak to those different pieces and parts so you understand that we've already heard their comments and made those corrections or adjustments. So
Thank you.
So we are working with Building Hope in the city, and they are proposing to do a development very similar to the one that they had just recently completed over on West 56. So over there were 14 townhomes. There was 3 4-unit buildings and 1 2-unit building. And at this site, we are proposing to do 2 4-unit buildings and 1 2-unit building. So the site is, just keep clicking, please. Sorry. Just off of West 61st, you can see the parcels that are outlined in the green area right there. Those are the parcels that would be containing these 4 homes. 3 homes, I'm sorry. This is photos of the existing conditions around the site currently, just vacant land at this point. Different views. You can keep going. Oh, sorry. So this is just an aerial, again, showing the context of where the site's located, a little bit larger of a zoomed in site plan. This is our proposed site plan. So there would be 16 parking spaces on the rear of the property. And the homes would all face West 61st Street. The one single drive is off of West 61st Street that will go around to the back for the parking. We are proposing that the 2-unit home be placed next to the single-family home so that from a contact standpoint, site massing standpoint, they're a little bit closer together. And then the 2 larger buildings going down the street, and then the driveway separating us from the other neighboring residential home. So in our proposed plans, we have landscaping that you would see across the front of the site. And then from planning committee or from the design review committee the other day, they asked us to provide some additional landscaping on the back of the property, which we have added that. That screening would, or that landscaping would just kind of go a little bit around the condensing units that are placed along the back, along with they had asked us to add location for the trash containers. So those trash containers would go on the backs of the houses as well and have some landscaping around them. I can go to the next slide, please. So this plan right here is the 2-unit building that would be the last one on the property. And what we are proposing here is 3-bedroom home with 2 full bathrooms. One of the bathrooms being completely off of what we would consider to be a master bedroom. Each one of the units, and this goes for all of the buildings, have their own washer and dryer in them. They have a separate furnace and hot water tank. And for this unit right here, what we have done is this building would actually be flipped. So the porch would actually be closer to the other ones. And then that way, anyone coming up to that unit wouldn't have to walk in front of the residential bedrooms in that location. So this unit is actually the opposite direction. The renderings and such show it that way. And then that provides a little bit of buffering and screening. And then the stairs all the way over there would take you upstairs to the 2nd floor unit that would have the same layout. The only difference being 1st floor is your ADA accessible unit, and then upstairs would just be a regular bathroom. Okay, go to the next one. This is the 4-plex building. Very similar to what you had just seen, except for we are only doing 2 bedrooms in this unit, but we are doing 2 full bathrooms in here as well. One being directly off of the master bedroom, and then the other one being for guests and or for the other bedroom there as well. Again, full washer and dryers in this location, HVAC and hot water tanks, and then storage underneath the stairs. The entrance down in the middle there, stairs would go up the middle to get you to either unit. And another thing to point out as well is each one of the units all have their own individual entrance. So no one shares an entrance. Everybody has their own access to each location. Next slide, please. These are the 3 color schemes that we are proposing for the homes. Muted similar to what was done before. The 4-plex building, the 2-plex, another one of the 4-plexes. And then what we've done since then is we have actually updated that rendering was for one of the other projects. I'd be happy just to provide this to you. You can pass it around. That's what the homes would look like from the street. And what the proposed would be for the different colors of the homes. Each one would be individual, have its own individual identity from a color standpoint. And the other thought would be to, if you could go back to plans just for a sec, site plan for a second, please. Each one of the homes would be, yes, this is fine. So the homes would vary in terms of the location on the site. All of them would sit at the same elevation or same setback on the front side of the street, but each one would mirror each other slightly different so that, again, it provides a little bit of breakup and context along the street as you're driving by. And again, and then we did provide, and it's also in that packet, all of the different lighting cut sheets. So this, on the back of the site, you would have light poles that would just be 2 light poles on the back of the property line. The other comment that the building department, or I'm sorry, the commission had the other day was to just provide no parking signs or stripe the back area so people don't park behind the parking spaces. So we did add that note in the updated packet for you as well. So these were the considerations that we were asked to do. Reduction of concrete sidewalks. What we did there was we provided just the walks that go down from in between each one of the units comes directly out to the existing sidewalk, and then the connection would occur between each one of the patios that are on the front of the home from a sidewalk standpoint there as well. So before each unit had a sidewalk going directly out to the sidewalk, now we've condensed it into one to reduce the amount of concrete on the site. The trash pad we had discussed. We did add some landscaping in the back of the property as well. And then one of the other comments was to lift the foundation so the siding isn't touching the ground, and that doesn't occur. There's a 6-inch, would you say, step?
Yeah.
6-inch buffer, give or take, along those sidewalks or along that area, and then the siding would start. And so the same thing would occur at the front. And if there's, for the ADA accessible ones, it would just be the grade would slowly get you up to that front porch area that's covered on each one of those units.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
Sure. Good morning, Commission. Thank you for having us. I feel like these are the small wins we don't get to see enough in some of our neighborhoods, especially the Stockyard neighborhood. This same team also developed on West 56 another group of homes, and housing development hasn't been seen in this neighborhood for 50 years before that. So this is, in a way, a small win but big win for this neighborhood. We're very happy with the developers. Working with them has always been a pleasure. And as you can tell, the turnaround for them to make some edits has been incredible. Very proud and very happy to have this here. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Before I open up to commission, I'm just going to see if there's anyone present or online that would like to provide public comment in support. Anyone present that would like to provide public comment in opposition of this project? Hearing none, we'll close the public portion and open up for commission member comments or questions. I did have a quick question, Scott. Apologies if I missed this for the
No,
parking.
you're fine. Yes.
How many total parking spaces, and is there a distinction between the resident parking versus guest parking?
So there is no distinction between the guest and or resident parking. There are a total of 15 spaces. One of those in the updated packet, it does show we do identify where the ADA space would be with the van accessible space as well. So in totality, there are 15 parking spaces. So there are a few extras, and then any other additional guests or such would just park on the street at that point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And for the West 56 project, we labeled the parking spaces per unit, so that way the residents know which spaces go to which unit.
Okay,
We do the same thing here.
thank you. Commission members?
Madam Chair, couple questions for the applicant and a recommendation. The first is, are these rental or fee simple?
These are rental.
Okay, and what's the, is it workforce housing? Is it, is that intended for workforce housing? But I mean, it's moderately priced.
State your name for the record.
Jeffrey Stredney. I'm the Director of Social Enterprise and Housing for Building Hope in the City. I represent the project owner. Very happy to be with you today. So,
Mike it, yeah.
So for the 10 years that we've been asked to do this development, it is below market rate rent housing. We have no subsidies. We have no LIHTC deals. This is really, can we provide a better product at a far below market price? The current rental rate is around $1,000 per unit for the 2-bedroom, 2-bath at the West 56 development, which is far below the current market rate.
Okay, thanks. That's what I figured, but that's really going to support my comments to you and recommendations. First of all, you made it a point to try and blend in with the neighborhood. I love typologies that increases density, but respects the context and scale of the neighborhood. There's a lot of doors. Obviously, I get it. It's a multifamily unit. What I would suggest is you make those full light doors to break up the heaviness of the facade, create more dignified housing for folks. So it does two things. Obviously, it brings more light in, but it also is a safety thing. You're not walking out of your unit blind, so you can actually see where you're going. So I think that would improve the quality of life for the residents and create a better streetscape along the West 61st, sorry. That's it.
Madam Chair, to the applicant, and this could be worked with staff just by the plan image that we see in the presentation. I'm concerned about the turning radius to get into the parking lot. The parking spot to the northeast, kind of at the entrance, seems to be much smaller. I know this is a render and maybe it's not the actual construction documentation. I'm fine with, it going back to staff and just making sure that we have the appropriate, Oh yeah, that looks much better.
That's what I was gonna say, yes. I knew where you were getting at. So the renderings that you do have reflect accurately what that site plan will look like. So there is a little bit of a nudge at the end. That back drive is 20 feet wide,
Okay.
and then 12 foot coming in. So again, minimizing the drive coming in, but then trying to make sure that at the rear, there's enough room for cars to pass by. If somebody would park along the back, which we've noted is not to, but sometimes things happen.
I was thinking potentially someone would clip your lights back there, turning in.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Madam Chair, one other thing, I'm going to put my architect hat on. And I'm not trying to get into the building department's business, but these structures are relatively close from a fire separation distance. And so I don't know if you guys have talked to the building department, but you know, that would limit the amount of windows you can put on those facades. So I would say pay attention to that. You don't want to get caught having to reduce the amount of windows into these units.
Understood. Yes. Thank you for that. They are 15 feet apart. So they're actually further apart than what they were on West 56 because originally this was going to have another building. And so to open the site up a little bit, provide a little bit of additional green space and some areas for people to have somewhat of we'll say a small yard. We did separate the buildings by 15 feet as opposed to, I believe they were about 5 feet at the other property. So these are more by 10 feet. And if need be, we do have a little bit of additional area to the right there as you come in the drive where we could pull it a little bit further that way. However, we want to be cognizant of cars coming in there, bedroom being on that side, just making sure from a noise standpoint, we're providing a little bit of a buffer there. So, but thank you.
Any other comments, commission members?
I got one more.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Again, you know, obviously this is a pretty tight site, and you know, I always think about every season and snow. You know, you might wind up losing a space or two trying to, you know, I'm just bringing that up, you know, obviously, because that's going to be a challenge trying to get that plowed and getting people in and out of the property.
I can speak to that. We have now 1 year of experience with our West 56 homes. We have quarterly meetings with the residents at Hope Commons, and we work through these issues regularly. And so we contract with local folks in the neighborhood to help clear the snow and ice because we do have elderly residents. And I'll tell you what, there's some younger folks that have stepped up and they respond to the needs of some of the older folks in the community. It's really meant to be separate housing, but a community feel. And so we're grateful for that. Thank you for your time.
I'm glad you guys have been intentional about this. It's important because we always say we're providing housing for folks and we walk away. Well, there's other services and wraparound support you can provide to make sure that they thrive as much as they possibly can.
We say I handle bricks and sticks, but it's full heart and soul.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. If there are no other comments, may we please have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve project as presented with the caveat that I strongly suggest you make those doors full light. And also that they continue to work with the planning staff as indicated by Mr. Sargent.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Anthony,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Slife,
Yes.
and Whitfield.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you all so much. Good luck with your project. You're so welcome. You as well. Our next item is in Northwest Design Review. This is PRJ 26-011433. This is located at 6313 St. Clair Avenue, and this is for a demolition. Do we have Albert present?
Yeah.
Okay. If you all just make sure that your mics are on green, I'm going to just swear you in and then just ask you to state your name for the record. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth for this matter now in hearing under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Yes, I do. I'm Mike Schott. I am the lawyer for the LLC owner. It's a local LLC, and he's not able to be here. He may be on by... Anyway, I'll get into that. But I'm Mike Schott, and I'm representing the company.
Okay, thank you. And Albert?
My name's Albert Robinson. I'm the demo contractor. that's contracted to do the demolition.
We will control your slides from here. Okay, please proceed.
So this property was purchased from HUD as a vacant property in 2018. The owner is a local owner. He runs a locksmith company with about half a dozen trucks running around multiple counties, predominantly Cuyahoga. And I happen to know him because my son runs one of those trucks for him. So that's how I came to represent him. The city had multiple citations issued last fall. And so he's in the dilemma of, he purchased this property for $20,000. It needs extensive work, well over six figures in terms of wiring, plumbing, heating, windows, roofing, and then just the exterior essentially needs to be resurfaced as well. It is a brick building. And it's he's faced with the dilemma that it is not economic currently to rehab the property yet. He had hopes to do so. He looked at marketing it, but now there's a list of, I think, 23 violations that would need to be remedied if he were to try to sell it. So whereas I get calls weekly, are you interested in selling your property? He's not getting those calls. And that's the reason that he then contracted with Mr. Anderson's company. And I've met with the city in terms of the prosecutor and the judge in his housing violations matter. And they're aware of this sort of catch-22 that he needs permission to demo it, but they're actively pursuing the issues with the property, and so that seemed the only real alternative that the owner had.
Well, I can only talk about what I saw when I went there. And I happen to live in the community, so I ride by it frequently. And I've done demolition for the city of Cleveland, the land bank, and I also did board ups for the city of Cleveland. And so I'm just pretty familiar with these types of buildings. And really more so than a demolition contractor, as a person that lives in the area, frequency area, and has a emotional attachment to buildings in the area, I don't like to see a building go down. I don't, because that's how I identify with the area. I mean, the landmarks. The alternative, though, is in the community, when these things don't get taken care of, either way, either some kind of swift, some kind of repair or something happening to stabilize the place. It seems, and it has been for some time now, that demolition has been the way that the cities and counties and just private owners have gone. And for something like this, it just is sizable. That was what I saw. It's a pretty, it's a commercial place and it's pretty big. I'm a demo guy. So when they hire me, my job is to do the demo. So I'm not at that point, I'm not looking like to buy the place or save the place. I'm in the demo space, and I'm like, okay, how do we get this thing on, and how do we get it down and safely and all of this stuff. And with this place, I feel for the owner, because whatever happens, if it doesn't go down, I just don't see it, in my opinion, going anywhere. And so whatever happens, with these proceedings, I'll still drive by and see the place and see what happens with it, I mean, but it's not in the best shape, and it's been overtaken by the plant growth and groundhogs, which I'm sure most of us have been seeing all around everywhere now. That's my history with the structure and in the area.
Good morning, everyone. Ariel Washington, planner for the Northeast. The planning committee did vote denial during the meeting, but I am here to ask that we recommend a postponement. The CDC attended the meeting as well. The owner has not contacted the CDC. We would like to give time for the owner to contact them and sit down with them to see possibly there have been other proposed demolitions in the St. Clair area that have been turned around. The CDC was able to take those buildings, and those buildings are currently under renovation, are being occupied. There's a lot of investment in the area, and it just is evident the neglect over 8-year ownership. There are a lot of things that could have been done that were not done. So we are trying to not have a additional missing tooth in the neighborhood, and would like the owner to reach out to the CDC and economic development for additional funding opportunities to get this building off of his hand and avoid a demolition in the neighborhood.
If I may, Madam Chair, the legal process is not a patient process, and the city prosecutor suggested that we proceed with a consent to raise to the city, where then the city probably might hire Mr. Anderson itself. We're in that sort of catch-22, and in no opposition to speaking with the CDC, but to date, no funding, tax relief, otherwise has been available. This was purchased as an empty property from HUD, and while he hasn't, if you will, upgraded the property, he, as I said, he's a locksmith. He's secured the property. He's kept the taxes paid, and he's tried to be a reasonable steward of something that he may not have foreseen where it was headed when he purchased it. And now he's in this position that brings us here this morning, that we're being pushed to make very expensive renovations without any promise. In fact, with the likelihood that without dramatically more renovations, we still have an empty, uninhabitable, no certificate of occupancy piece of property. And I just place that in for your consideration as well.
Thank you, sir. Director, anything else you would like to add, textual-wise, context-wise?
I'll just add the additional context that in this block specifically, there are lots, not buildings, on either side of the block. There are 2 standing buildings on this block. But the block to the east is the Slovenia National Home, and the block to the west recently came before this commission for the Pixel Planet window coverings and signage, if you remember that case. As Ariel said, there is quite a lot of investment, both public and private, happening in the neighborhood. And so it does seem reasonable to have those conversations before final action.
Thank you. Thank you all. Commission members, comments, questions?
Yeah. Madam Chair, I would agree with Ms. Washington. I know I've been in this space, CDC ecosystem space, for almost 40 years, that you always approach your CDC or your council people, because at the end of the day, we need to be creative at how we develop and be very selective about what we tear down. I don't know if you all remember Judge Bianca. housing court. He would always come up with very creative ways to help stabilize things. So I really think that's at least worth a try, in my professional opinion.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
I agree with Member Fluker. We do not have representation from the CDC. You've asserted there's some opportunity there, and I think we should provide that opportunity for them to weigh in if something can be done with this building. And to my colleague, I think that's the proper thing to do. With that, I would say we're not looking at another 5 or 6 months to make that happen. If we're going to do that, if you're asking that of this commission, then it needs to be with a time frame that you think you can work in and something that is reasonable.
I would agree. Bad doesn't get better with time. Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just agree that the time frame needs to be
So
expedient.
we have two paths here. You agree to postpone because we need your permission, and then we vote, or we table this. Or L3, or there's 4, but at the end of the day, where we are, we have 2 things available to us.
Vice Chair, just a point of clarification, because this is a demolition rather than design review, the commission does have authority to postpone.
Okay, well, thanks for that. Well, I learn something every day. So imagine that. So, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to postpone this request and give the applicant ample time, but not excessive time, to meet with Cuyahoga County Land Bank, the CDCs, including whoever those stakeholders might be, to come up with a plan. Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Anthony?
Yes.
Fluker?
Yes.
Sergeant?
Yes.
Slide? Whitfield?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Could I request, wearing my other hat as the lawyer in this matter, that we would get an order reflecting some of the discussion regarding the postponement and the period of time of the postponement, which would then enable me to get, I think, time from the court to explore this. So I would just ask that indulgence.
Get them in my.
So having said that, Madam Chair, again, I don't know where all the details are, but I would think 30 days should be more than enough time to touch bases with everyone and come up with a solution or an alternative path. And so I'd like to amend my motion to reflect a 30-day period at which time you come back before this body.
You have an amended motion. Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please. Yes.
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 Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, our next item is a public art design review, Art 26-004 Destination Cleveland Murals across the city, Collinwood. This is located at 706 East 185th.
Good morning. No, Alex is online.
Okay, I was like, I don't know.
Hey, everyone. Good morning. I'm Courtney Vargo with Destination Cleveland. What I have for you all today is one out of the hopefully 3 murals that we'll be doing as part of our Murals Across the City series. You can advance to the next slide. It shows just some examples from our first year. These are all paint on brick. And then the next year in 2025 shows kind of our shift to heat applied vinyl. The whole sort of impetus behind this project is really just getting local art. So all of these works are done by local Cleveland artists out into the neighborhood. So creating photo ready murals and, just representations that folks are proud of and proud to share online. Just rewind really quick to the process slide. Some of you may remember kind of, these murals coming through Planning Commission last year. Just want to note that we did sort of amend our process from year to year. So last year we sort of, we put out a call for artists. We picked the pool that felt, really brand aligned and Cleveland positive, things like that. We picked a good pool and then asked all of those artists to create designs and then tried to match those designs with building owners. We kind of flipped the process around this year just to be able to create works of art that were a little bit more responsive to the actual environments that they ended up being in instead of kind of trying to fit the two together. So releasing the call for artists, evaluating the applications, selecting artists to kind of, like speed date with the building owners. Then the building owner select who they'd like to work with. And then from there, the artist creates a specific design for the building and the neighborhood and all those sorts of things. Shared back with, stakeholders, council people, CDC, et cetera. And then we're here today in city entitlements. So next slide, please. This is the wall we're looking at. Again, it's 706 East 185th Street. So East 185th and Hillers across street. Next slide, please. That orange block shows the exact site we're working on. You can advance. And here we are looking north. So Hiller is kind of in front of us in the foreground there. This is the wall we're looking at, the facade. Next slide. We are looking east down Hiller. Looking south down 185th. And then looking west up Hiller. Facade again. And here's the design. And if you'll indulge me, I'm just kind of going to read some information because I didn't have enough time. I apologize to get the artist bio back in here. But this is the proposed design by an artist named Tesla Barron. She is a visual artist, again, based in Cleveland, as all of our mural artists are. She utilizes vibrant colors and imaginative settings. She describes her work as very illustrative and ethereal. She has worked in this neighborhood before, so she has one mural in the Pop Life building in Collinwood. And then the next slide will show a render on the building. I believe what came out of design review is that they wanted us to lift the mural up a couple of inches, and I apologize. That is our intention. I think it just doesn't show super well here. So we're kind of framing it by the vents and that previous storefront window lifted up a couple inches off the ground just to avoid any salt hitting it, things like that. And I apologize. I should have spoken more to the material. So it's a heat applied vinyl. Previously we did paint on wall. Now we're doing heat applied vinyl. It's just kinder to the buildings and building owners like it more. So if this is approved, it gets large scale printed, installed, and it has about an 8 to 10 year life expectancy, depending on how much sun hits it. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Was Alex online? Anything to add? Okay. Open up for commission member comments. I just want to make one comment, which is just an appreciation for the iteration in your process and allowing the speed dating to happen and make it feel a bit more organic for both the artist and the business owner. I think that's a really great update to your process.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, to the applicant and to staff, I find this hard to believe that this is a mural because it feels like a billboard, this advertising. And I need some direction on what we're actually approving, why we're approving it as a mural, in my professional opinion.
Vice Chair, this is part of a package of murals that Destination Cleveland has brought before the commission that we have reviewed as murals and approved as murals with a careful walking of that line. Unfortunately, Tara, who has helped usher us through that, is not here today. But this is consistent with the commission's past practices around several murals across the city.
Well, I'm going to make a more global comment. I wish we had sort of a coordinated and unified approach to how murals are brought to community. I mean, I see our partners at Land Studio sitting here. I mean, you have Rhonda and Tara, and I mean, I just don't think we have a handle on how, in my opinion, how things are curated in the process. And we have all these partners who are essentially in that space, and I don't think anything's coordinated. And so I really think we need to think more globally here, and that's probably speaking towards a cultural plan. That might be a bad thing to say, but at the end of the day, we need to up our game. You know, Akron's done it, and a few other cities throughout the country, and I just think we need to be more serious about how we reach community, who we actually touch. Are people in a better place when we leave? Have we taught and extended any skills that they can do on their own? So I think we really need to be serious about this because Commission member Tony Whitfield brought it up in the meeting we had, and I tend to agree with him. I think we need to be more cognizant of that. And lastly, and more importantly, why are we putting plaques on walls? They have a thing called QR codes. I mean, why invest in all this money why you can't just put a QR code? You scan it and not a plaque. So I don't totally agree with plaques, in my opinion. Thank you.
If you'd allow me just to comment on that, not shown in the rendering is we will have a QR code developed and installed in heat applied vinyl where folks can scan it and learn more about the artist and things of that sort.
Just a quick question, Evelyn, and forgive me if I missed this when you put it up on the screen. The version I have on my computer shows the other murals that Destination Cleveland did in the beginning. I don't know if that was shown.
Yeah, I remember them. Madam Chair. Oh, I do remember.
Okay, I just wanted to, I might have been looking up at that moment when it was going by. Okay, thank you. I do hear there's a city club coming up to talk about cultural plan.
I know somebody.
You may know somebody who's moderating that. I'm in agreement. Other commission members?
Madam Chair, I have a question. Heat applied vinyl versus painting. Is there a reason we can't do heat applied vinyl in other situations? Do we need to consider painting?
Sorry, maybe I don't understand the question. You want them?
No, I'm just curious as it's applied. In some places we've painted the mural.
Oh,
In
I
other
see.
places we have heat applied vinyl. And one is more kinder to the building, if I can use that expression.
Sure.
Other when it's painted, it's painted. So are we moving toward the vinyl?
Yeah. So, and I think there's several reasons for that. One, when we approach building owners, it's funny because so many people are like, "Oh, Cleveland should do more murals." It's generally kind of difficult to get a building owner to agree to put something on their wall, right? And paint, for whatever reason, folks just seem to be maybe more averse to that. It seems maybe harder to kind of get set in stone what that actual vision is going to be. And I think for that reason, building owners just tend to like getting that graphic beforehand. And then the application process is done in a day and things of that sort. It's a little less invasive in that regard. The first year when we did paint on buildings, it was within a couple of months that a car ran into the building and then building had to be repaired and the mural had to come back and be repainted. So in this case, now that we have applied vinyl, if something like that were to happen again, reprinting the design is quite a bit easier than having to come out and repaint. Similar conditions with if the mural were to be tagged, it's quite a bit easier to clean. So does that answer your question?
Oh, yes, but I'm going to ask for something more specific.
Okay.
As a committee, are you moving toward applied vinyl?
Yes.
And away from painting?
Correct.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think that's.
For this project, yeah. Mhm.
Well, what about other projects across the board?
This is our biggest project that we do annually. So I don't want to say like Destination Cleveland will never bring you something that's painted ever again. We can't
Maybe
write
that's
anything
something
out of
we
the
should
discussion,
explore.
but nothing else is in the works that's painted, but this project certainly, the vinyl works well.
Thank you.
Just two comments. One with the comment about raising the mural. I think we should just do equal distance from the top to the right where the facade changes and the bottom, so it just appears as a frame. And just a suggestion that maybe justifying the Cleveland script logo underneath the always mistaken. And I see there's like a trademark R on top of that. Is that necessary? On like the D, like the Cleveland like is. I mean, I just I like the idea of promoting Cleveland, the land, and all that. That's a bit on the nose.
Yeah. No, I understand the comment, and honestly, my colleagues are going to kill me for not knowing the answer to that. Alex can maybe speak to that because it's something I know we talk about, and to be honest, it's just not my lane of knowing if that is if it's necessary. I don't think that's in other murals, so I'm going to say no. Well,
If it is a problem, I was going to say, if it is a problem, I would just recommend just doing a different font and getting rid of the trademark logo.
So we'll get that clarified. Alex can speak to that in a second. I see he's unmuted, but just want to speak to the justification comment. This was like V1 from the artist, and she has since kind of realigned those. So certainly understand that comment. And then Alex, you want to speak to the trademark?
Yeah, so the Cleveland script is a registered trademark. It's our mark for, promotion outside the region. We can certainly talk about whether that's 100% appropriate here. We give the logo to the artist as a graphic lockup. So that's why you see it here. From a perspective of protecting IP and all that kind of stuff, I will have to refer back to whether that's 100% necessary here, but I hear you. It's a little weird in a public art piece.
Okay.
If there are no other comments or questions?
Just a broad comment that I think the how people have attached themselves to the logo. Perhaps this is just something that could be made publicly available and not subject to trademark, so that it can gain currency in the community without people being subject. This is like I can't put the Disney logo on my daughter's, birthday party invitation because I'll get sued by Disney, technically. So maybe this is just something that we shouldn't be trademarking. We should just be letting the community use.
I'll share with you that we give out hundreds of royalty-free licenses every year for folks to use this in handmade products and in products that promote the city. The reason that we protect the IP is so that we can cease and desist when it's used inappropriately. That's pretty consistent across destination marketing brands. We don't need to get into a huge discussion about intellectual property law, but we'll see what we can do when it comes to putting this on walls.
I don't think Cleveland, Tennessee wants to steal our logo.
With that said, do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I motion to approve the artist presented with the comments about justifying the Cleveland sign, looking into the copyright issues with regards to the trademarking, and then also the framing solution with lifting the mural up.
Thank you. We have a motion. Second?
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Anthony,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Sergeant,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Whitfield.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you so much, Courtney.
Huh.
All right. Our next presentation is a mandatory legislative referral ordinance unnumbered 2026, amending ordinance 20457, 1911 ordinance relating to the Superior Avenue under the Northern Southern Railroad to give authority to eliminate an at-grade crossing and construct to maintain said railroad at East 26. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So my name is Mark Andrasik. I'm the section chief of bridges for the city. This legislation is to replace the bridge. It's Norfolk Southern Railroad, NS. It spans over Superior Avenue between East 38th and East 39th Streets. There's an aerial view right there on the screen. Next slide. Here's in street views looking east and west along Superior Avenue of the bridge currently. This is the proposed view that NS has provided us. Right now, the purple is indicating the current pier layout of the bridge, and green is what's going to be proposed. So it's going to be going from 4 piers to 3. Which should help with safety in the area. And when the railroad's all done with their bridge construction, this is what the road layout's going to look like. I do want to make note that there is also a roadway project that will have a slight overlap at the time. And the final layout of the roadway, the bike lanes are actually going to switch and be in the middle and straddle the piers in the middle. But for what the railroad is proposing until our project comes through, this is what the layout's going to look like. And there's a quick overview of what the final product will be after the roadway project is complete.
Sorry, Evelyn, can you go back one just to zoom in a little bit on that last one?
And Madam Chair, just for clarity, the roadway project is the Superior Midway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Commission members, comments, questions?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve
No.
Okay, sorry.
the presentation as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Anthony,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Sergeant,
Yes.
Slife,
Yes.
Whitfield.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
All right, we have a handful of for information only presentations. First up is the comprehensive citywide plan research.
So, planning commission members, this is Suprita. She's joined our department for the summer. She's a master's of regional planning student at Cornell University and is here through a fellowship, the Keithley Fellowship. We're very grateful to have her placement and excited to share her work with you.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Suprita. I'm originally from India. This is my first time in Cleveland, and it's been really wonderful so far. I've been here for 6 weeks. So one of the main projects that I was getting into this summer was doing some research for the citywide comprehensive plan update. And I was looking at a couple of different cities. So this was the initial part of that research. So I was looking at a couple of different cities in and around the industrial belt area, as well as 2 cities within Ohio. Of these, I've been to 3. I've been to Buffalo, Rochester, and Baltimore. I haven't been to the rest of them, so it was new for me. So I was learning about these cities through a very different lens. Yeah, next slide. So I just picked a couple of important points from each city that I thought would be really relevant to the comprehensive plan update of the direction that Cleveland should take while planning the comprehensive plan. So, for example, Minneapolis. I just wanted to say, I also picked all of the cities based on their population size, the size of the city itself, and how dense it is. So a lot of them were contextually pretty similar. I made sure to do that so that the comprehensive plan could also have similarities to what cities have already done, so we know what works and what doesn't. So coming to the first city, Minneapolis marked out different areas in their city's map of built form districts, where basically they try to map it according to how much density should be there and where middle housing should exist, which is basically housing between a very dense area and a less dense area in the city. So they marked that out on a couple of different maps and tried to test different scenarios, which I thought that was interesting. Buffalo did a vacant lot decision tree. So they tried to map how they would use that how they would use a vacant lot, whether it was based on if it had potential, if they could reuse it, or they had to completely revamp it, or it could be a side yard expansion. So they had different ways of looking at vacant lots, and they also tried to map some economic connections within the city, close to educational institutions or existing industries or upcoming industries. Next slide. St. Louis actually had a different approach. They tried to map their vacancies, their land vacancy, and how that would look in the future. And they also tried to identify economic nodes within the city's map to try and map transit networks near that and try and form a plan around the 15-minute city plan. Memphis, on the other hand, had like a degree of change framework where they tried to identify different parts of the city as places that would accelerate growth, places that they would have to nurture. And they tried to map that differently across the city so that they could accordingly also plan their 15-minute city plans around that. They also did a vacant lot decision matrix, which is on the right in blue. The entire document is available as well on the SharePoint. I will share it once that's finished. But yeah, it includes information. The vacant lot decision matrix from Memphis was specific to making it easy for users to understand how they could maybe revamp land that they have. So it was more user focused. Next slide. Rochester, on the other hand, had placemaking maps. So the map on the left is a placemaking map where they tried to map different activities within the city, not specific to land use, but more specific to user activity on those sites. And they tried to map it according to that. And the user interface is also really well done and very up to date. So the screenshots on the right are from their website where they've mapped different areas of the city and progress at different parts according to their plans. And Pittsburgh, on the other hand, actually had a completely different approach. They tried to model how the population would grow over 3 different scenarios and tried to plan according to that. So the 3 things that they planned was so the one in the red is where the population grows in the best estimates. The orange is middle, and then the climate head city. Thank you. The climate ready city is where the lowest estimate of how much the population would grow in the next 5 years, and they try to plan it according to that. Next slide. The next 3 cities I looked at, 2 of which are in Ohio. For Baltimore, they actually did a housing market typology study. So they tried to understand what kind of markets would go in which parts of the city. And accordingly, they marked them as from A to F. And then A is where they see the most growth and F is where they see the least growth. And they want to accordingly concentrate their housing development efforts in areas with F working up to A, because A already has pretty strong markets. As for Cincinnati, we had spoken to their planning department, and they also presented at the NPC conference this year. And they basically identified business districts as anchors in different parts of the city, and they tried to also map, like Memphis, a degree of change where they see places growing or places that need to be maintained with further funding, or places where transit network should be made better. So they tried to look at it with different anchors. And Toledo's approach was really interesting. They actually did a regression, which is a statistical approach. They took a couple of different variables, trying to understand like median incomes and economic growth, but from a more statistical lens. And they found certain sectors to grow more than others and then mapped those on the larger map where they see those sectors growing geographically, and they tried to map the population growth that way. So that was pretty interesting. Next slide. So these are just a couple of things that from different cities that I thought Cleveland could definitely try to incorporate in its comprehensive plan update. For example, Memphis and Pittsburgh both do a degree of change network type of mapping. And I thought that could be really relevant. Similarly, like Toledo's regression analysis with its multivariate graph that was on the slide could be really relevant for the opportunity corridor. That could be a good testing ground to see if something like that could work for the entire city. Cincinnati has a connected communities buffer, which is around their connected community anchors that they place in different areas on the map, which could boost transit networks and walkability. Baltimore has a housing market typology study, which could be really relevant if we took certain areas within the map, like St. Clair and Huff, for example, and try to do that and then expand learnings from there to the larger city. Next slide. So the earlier plan was made years ago and prior to the financial crisis in 2008. So I think there's a lot of different things that have changed, not just for Cleveland, but for the country at large. And I think a lot of those things could be reframed and redone. A couple of things that could keep the process really transparent would maybe be a progress tracker. Rochester's system on their website is so clear and so well done. And you can really see what stage they're at. They started it in 2019. So it's been about 7 years and it's been up to date. So that's been really interesting to see. And vacant and publicly owned land as a strategic asset is something that a lot of these cities are trying to do. They're trying to come up with matrices of how to define vacant land and how to find uses for such land. And Cleveland could also try to maybe map like the earlier plan was made with one intention and with one idea of what the future would look like, but different scenarios would maybe help plan that better. And the last thing would be a degree of change map for the entirety of Cleveland, maybe starting with smaller housing districts and then expanding that over the larger area would maybe provide insights about how the 15-minute city would work in smaller areas that could then become a model for the larger city. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Just I guess, more clarity question for the director. What's the time frame in which this process will take place?
Yes, and Madam Chair, before I get to that, I'd like to hand it over to Adam Davenport, who's joining us online. He may touch on that in his remarks, and if not, I can circle back to that.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Adam.
Thanks, Callie. Hello. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. First off, just want to thank Sabrita also. She's really hit the ground running with us this summer. She's only here for a brief period of time, but has covered a lot of ground in only like the month that she's been in Cleveland. So I really want to shout her out and thank her for this help. This is one of many projects she's on. So big props to her. This is, if you couldn't tell, like, we are really trying to do some kind of pre-work for the comprehensive plan before we get it started this year. Hopefully we release the RFP for that. I think probably this fall, if everything goes right. We would like to really see what else is around the nation and, like, kind of, what's hip in citywide plans right now, right? What's really relevant to Cleveland. I think I'm particularly really interested in the scenario planning that some cities are doing, right? Saying, like, not every neighborhood is growing at the exact same pace and tailoring different approaches to that. I think that's kind of evident in some of this research. Also, what, some curiosities, I think, that Saprita pulled out from, especially like Toledo, where they are really focused on some specific economic drivers, doing what they are already, like, doubling down on what they are already doing well, rather than trying to stray into kind of new territory, like calling out what's really being championed and going well for them. And then tying that into some of the specific neighborhood revitalization strategies that those cities are participating in, or really have going on with their unique waterfronts or kind of cultural assets too. So it's I think we would both welcome all your thoughts. We can also send this document that Saprita put together to you as well to check out, kind of a little bit more in depth of what we investigated, what the other cities have going on, and what we're kind of looking at moving forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Adam. And yes, I definitely think we would all like to see the full slide deck. Vice Chair.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just a little bit of commentary. I think as much as we can make sort of in real time and interactive and again, I'm not a tech guy, but I do know a lot of times when we do plans, they go on the shelf and we forget about them, or they're not easily digestible or enforceable because of it's just been the way things have been done for the last 100 years. So from my perspective, I think that hopefully that begins to pull together all the other efforts that we're looking at, right? Haven't heard anything about the 10-year housing plan or how we're doing on that, creating real metrics and tracking them, and instead of just checking boxes, we need to make sure they get implemented. And we actually learn from them, because to me, I see this plan potentially as a living document and not something static. So I do appreciate your research to sort of raise awareness around how we think planning in this city.
Vice Chair.
I'll add that I'm very intrigued by the scenario planning and sort of two anecdotes as we were looking at the Norfolk Southern Bridge and knowing that the Midway is coming in. One of my questions is, for that amenity to be fully used, what does the population density in and around it need to be? And what implications may that have for the built environment? And just frankly, if we want parts of the city to grow and to really take our investments to the next level, do we need to, in areas, be more open to demolition and more dense construction than we have been perhaps? And I'll share, and I know this is probably repeating a talking point, the city's population peaked in 1950. My neighborhood's population peaked in 1970. In 1970, so each ward has 25,000 people. In the current geography of the ward I represent, there used to be 40,000 people. And we talk a lot about vacancy, but I don't think we talk enough about household size, and that people in my neighborhood used to have 8 kids pretty easy, and I'm not doing that. But I bring it up because my argument is basically that I have maybe 50% more commercial space in the neighborhood than I need, because there used to be enough people in the neighborhood to justify that much commercial space. So if we want to continue to have things like grocery stores and other amenities, I think it makes sense to focus on attracting more people. And for maybe neighborhoods, we need to start setting targets of, if we really want sustainable neighborhoods, we can't just focus on zoning. We need to understand what we are building towards. And I think that speaks to population in raw numbers. I'd also argue that it speaks to income diversity. There's a lot of conversations right now about the need for more full-service grocery stores in the city of Cleveland, and whether I like it or not, the grocery stores look at income demographics, and they make their money off of decorative cheeses, not off of things that are maybe SNAP eligible. And if we want to attract these retailers in and retain them, we have to make we have to, I think, do more work to be appealing to the market, you know, and I feel like we are doing a good job. I guess maybe the elevator speech of all of this is, I think we're doing a good job on the zoning and the density and on a theoretical level. We need to start thinking more about how to apply it specifically to places, and understand what we are working towards, and maybe what the other side of the equation may be of what we may have to lose from a built environment in order to be able to sustain the sort of development we need to achieve the overall goal. So scenario planning, I think, is really cool. You could really neighborhood by neighborhood figure out what we're trying to work towards specifically in 2040 in a variety of ways.
Councilman, I also don't think you're taking population increase serious enough in your own household.
Yeah.
I think the comments also just, I think the comments illuminate the importance of community engagement, right? Because even with, you know, the recommendation of the councilman, which I agree that each neighborhood, you know, has its own unique features, it needs to be a two-way conversation, right? Not us planning for, but with. And so I'm really particularly interested as this process evolves, Adam as well, I'm sharing this with you, that we also have a very participatory engagement process, because I think even just the grocery store comment that the councilman just made, there's a lot of commentary without context and depth, right? So not everyone knows that, right? Not everyone knows that, you know, how does a grocery store determine that this is the location I'm going to come to or not? And I think it provides additional texture to community dialogue when residents actually have the full picture. And sometimes we can leave a couple of, you know, parts out of the equation and then get salty when, you know, people have opinions. So community engagement is going to be critical as this project or as this process, excuse me, evolves. Any other comments? How long do we have you?
I'm here for the next 6 weeks.
Okay.
So
Really
I'll be
short.
leaving. Yeah, I'll be leaving on August 15th.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. If we don't see you before you, are you heading back home?
Sorry?
Are you heading back home?
No, I'm heading back to school. I have another year left.
Okay.
So
Well, hopefully we can attract you. Yeah, I'm like, here's our Cleveland pitch. Well, hopefully within, after these 6 weeks, we will see you in a year back in Cleveland.
cool. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next up, we have an informational presentation from Scott and Jason from North Coast. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. Scott Skinner, President and Executive Director of the North Coast Waterfront Development Corporation.
I'm Jason Russell, Vice President of Planning and Development for North Coast Waterfront.
I am Rhonda Brown, Senior Advisor for Arts and Culture for the City Mayor, for the Mayor of Cleveland.
So we have a bit of a part 1A and 1B presentation today. We were asked to do two things. The first is bring you up to speed a little bit on where we are with the master planning process for the site without a stadium on it that the stadium currently sits on. And then two, for your information, bring you up to speed on a large-scale public project that we will be bringing to this body in just a couple weeks, actually. So first, to sort of take a step back and zoom out for what this process has looked like and where we've been. In fall of 2023, the North Coast Master Plan was released. We'll have an image of it a little bit later. That was the master plan conducted by the City of Cleveland through field operations. It included years of community engagement, everything from large-scale events on the mall to tabling at Dave's supermarkets across the city. And a lot of that engagement was incorporated into the plan. In fall of 2023, my organization was created. I was brought on as its first executive director in April of 2024. In summer of 2024, the city released the 90% version of the North Coast Master Plan. That is also, just to take ourselves back, that is also when the Browns to Brook Park rumors started sort of swirling. And for that reason, that master plan was never actually adopted amidst that uncertainty, but was presented to the general public. In October of 2024, the Cleveland Browns announced they were leaving the lakefront. And later the next year in spring of 2025, and I've presented this project to this body a couple times now, we opened the North Coast Yard to start to activate the site north of their stadium using a lot of the guiding principles from the community engagement we got in the North Coast Master Plan. In October 2025, the city and Cleveland Browns announced a settlement agreement that was then approved in, I believe, December of 2025. Throughout that time, and I came to this body to present our process for selecting a master developer. We also, this was I think December of 2020 of last year, we also selected DiGeronimo as a master developer for the site. DiGeronimo is based in Northeast Ohio. It's the development arm of Independence Construction, which has been in Northeast Ohio for like 100 years. And they're also national in scope. And the first thing that we did with them was start to think about a master planner and a master planning process for the site without a stadium.
Pardon me, Scott, sorry.
Yes.
MDRD.
Yes. So Jason will talk a little bit more about that in a second, but so we invited a number of local, national, and international firms to respond to a request for qualifications. The city planning team was involved in that process. They sat in on interviews that we had with these firms as well, as was my organization and DiGeronimo. We ended up selecting a group called MVRDV. They have New York offices, but they are based in Rotterdam. They've done waterfront planning and design for San Francisco, Oslo, Rotterdam, Amsterdam, Shanghai, a number of sort of international cities, and Jason can sort of go into their work a little bit more later. In partnership, MVRDV is also part of the team was DLR Group, which has a lot of local experience here and wanted to make sure we had boots on the ground in Cleveland every day. DLR was working on the Rock Hall expansion, a number of other projects here in Cleveland, but was a competitive process to select a group. And part of that was we sort of started with an intellectual exercise of do we need a new master plan for the site? The city spent a long time and a lot of energy soliciting community input and community feedback to create the master plan that it had. And a lot of the guiding principles for that plan, which we'll talk about, are something that we're seeing through this version of it. The decision that we came to was a 25-acre site with an NFL stadium as an anchor and a 50-acre site with no anchor, two very different sites. And we need to be thinking about street grids and circulation plans and really what a new neighborhood in Cleveland looks like. 50 acres, and we'll give you some context for it in a little bit, is an enormous site, and just concentrating, multifamily hospitality and public space on the water's edge did not seem like it made sense when we need to be thinking about, again, a new street grid and an entirely new neighborhood. Next slide, please. And the other reason that we ultimately decided that it was important to think about a new version of the master plan is that every master plan just about every master plan that we found that have been done historically, and these are 5 of the 17 images that we have over the last 60 or 70 years, are focused on a stadium. Focused on designing buildings around an NFL stadium as an anchor. Everything from the 1946 Lakefront Plan to the 2021 Haslam Sports Group Lakefront Vision and everything in between, really focused on the stadium as an anchor, and then trying to design the buildings north of it. Next slide, please. And the master plan that the city put together with field operations did the same thing. The dam bridge was oriented around an NFL stadium, and which makes sense, right? As the largest anchor on the site, you need to be thinking about that as the thing that you're planning with and planning around for that lakefront site. You have buildings to the north, really terrific sort of recreation areas to the north as well. And again, the land bridge coming from Mall C and sort of bending around the stadium. So this was, really done, really thoughtfully put together over a long period of time. But at the end of the day, we that it made sense to look at this site with fresh eyes. That's also why we brought in a new planning and design group to help us look at that site with fresh eyes. Next slide, please. However, the master plan that the city put together is not solely drawings on paper, and it's not solely something that is meant for us to aspire to and ultimately build at the end of the day. It's also a process. And like I mentioned, that was a process that lasted just over 3 years. That included a lot of community engagement. And the result of that process were 4 values and guiding principles: economic opportunity, racial equity, climate resiliency, and joy. That was, again, funneled down from a lot of things that we heard from community members from all over the city to really create these 4 values and principles. And as we move into a new master plan, we're using all of those, using those 4 guiding principles as a thought process for what this site can be next. And next slide, please. And that includes, we have all this documented as well. We have minutes from almost 300 community meetings. We have over 5,000 survey responses. That number is actually closer to 6,000 now. And we have minutes and reports from all of these discussion groups that are listed here. The first thing that we did when we brought on a new master planner was give them those resources and work with them to sort of filter through them and digest them. So that informs the master planning process that we're engaged in right now. And now I'm going to kick it over to Jason. That's sort of where we've been. I'm going to talk about where we are now and where we're going.
Great. Thank you, Scott. So our opportunity here, as Scott mentioned, this is a 52-acre site once the Brown Stadium is demolished. And as you can see from the site, the screen, it's a tremendous size. And next slide, please. But I think when you lay it over downtown Cleveland, a space that we walk every day and drive, you really start to get a feel for the scale of this. So it runs from Ontario through Public Square all the way to East 9th Street, from St. Clair to about Prospect Avenue in the south. And so a tremendous opportunity, a tremendous size, and also it really defines the fact that this is a true neighborhood that we're going to create. And that's why we have to go through this really iterative process and work with the right folks to make that happen. So as Scott mentioned, we selected NVRDV and DLR Group to help us through this process. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of both of their works. So this is Mission Rock. This is in San Francisco, right across the street from the Orioles Park where the Giants play. This was a former parking lot right on the waterfront. And so this building, one of the buildings they designed here is called the Canyon, that reflects the California geology of mountains and canyons throughout. But it creates an indoor pedestrian space that weaves through the site that protects you from the elements. As you know, the winds off the bay can be brutal at times and cool. And so they've really thought about how do we design the buildings to help keep the site hospitable at all times. Next slide, please. This is one in actually Rotterdam. This is a really interesting multi-use building because on the inside is a public market. As you can see, the building wrapping the public market is actually apartments with first floor retail and restaurants. And there's a parking garage beneath. So a very unique use of the space and really a cool interactive space overall as well. Next slide, please. And lastly, this one is in Oslo. This is a waterfront development. It's called Barcode. It's called Barcode. As you can see, with all the buildings that are designed on the site, how they have different typologies and heights. But also, most importantly, is Oslo's weather is worse than ours, right? And so, how do you create a waterfront that continues to be a place you can be, 12 months out of the year? Next slide, please. So DLR Group, this is in Vancouver, Washington, right on the Columbia River. Very familiar site, or similar site to ours. They work with the Port of Vancouver. It's a site that used to be Terminal 1. block from the downtown area by a railroad. If that sounds familiar, you know why. And so they were part of the group that started redesigning this terminal area. So the first project, this is actually the second project, was an office building. You can see through the pedestrian stairs, they make up the grade that exists on the site to provide great access to the water. Next slide, please. And then the first project on the site was actually a hotel, which really wanted to take advantage of the scenic views of the Columbia River and really connect people to the water in a way they hadn't been, because this was Portland, you know, from the beginning.
Sure thing. And just one thing to add, you'll notice, and this was a key sort of guiding principle of how we evaluated firms that are bringing us. All of these are pictures and not renderings.
Yeah.
So really focusing on firms that are bringing us example projects that ultimately got built.
So if you go to the next one, yeah. So as Scott mentioned earlier, all the feedback that we got from the residents of the city of Cleveland over several years, all of that was given to NVRDV and DLR Group. And out of that, they presented us, this is right at the beginning of our process, these kind of ambitions. And I don't want to go through all of them, but I do want to point out two very important ones. First one being designing trust and making sure that we are creating a space that is inclusive for the city of Cleveland, where people can see themselves in that space, and rather than them saying that's not for us, it's certainly not anything we want to create. And then lastly, creating flexibility. We're talking about this great site, this great opportunity, but recognizing this is not going to get built in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, right? So how do you create a space that's phased in the long term, but still can be active and vibrant in the near term? Next slide. So speaking of phasing, we look at it in these three phases. We look at phase one and we include North Coast Holiday because that obviously is built and happening, and Rock Hall is investing in the space as well. How do you continue and amplify that? Because today you get to Great Lakes Science and you get to the Mather and the experience kind of ends, right? And so how do we start to create a greater experience there? We've already started with the yard, but we see this as an area that you could develop sooner rather than later. The second phase being the parking lots that are north of Erie side, north of the stadium, and then the last site obviously being phase three, the stadium site, once the stadium has been demolished. Next slide. So we've talked a lot about this master planning process and this that is going to come out of this work with NVRDV and DLR, but that focuses on the vertical and horizontal infrastructure. Based on all the feedback we've gotten from the residents of the city of Cleveland of what they want their waterfront to be, it's less about the physical infrastructure and more about the social and how they can see themselves, how they can see Cleveland represented in that space. So separate from that process, we're working on a social infrastructure plan with Third Space Action Lab to really talk about and commit to what are the things in the community that we can be doing on the site now and forever, put it that way. So making a commitment to cultural programming, what does that look like? How does that represent the diversity of the city of Cleveland? And that can be a wide range of things that we activate on the site. Creating a public art program on the site as well. And I want to say this too, like all genres of expression, of artistic expression, not just murals. I think everyone defaults to murals, but there's opportunities for ballet and theater and a busker program, just so you have live music on the streets. And then also developing partnerships around sustainability, clean water initiatives, and maritime education. We see this as an opportunity to really educate people about how important our Great Lakes are and how important freshwater is, and how many job opportunities, frankly, there are in the maritime industry that could be opportunities for our young people. And then lastly, really supporting entrepreneurship, whether that's through small businesses, whether it's contractors, whether it's folks who are just opening their first ice cream shop and want to have an opportunity where all the people are on the lakefront, and then workforce participation through WB, MB, and other ways to engage the community. So really thinking holistically about how is the community represented in this space, and we'll work with partners. As we create this plan, we'll work through partners to execute on all these items. Next slide. So our master planning process timeline. So we plan to start our community engagement in the month of August. We're utilizing Third Space Action Lab. They also did the first process with field operations. So a lot of the feedback they already have, so we can really connect with the unique populations here in Cleveland. And we plan to be back in front of the design review and this committee in the month of August as well. We will use feedback from these committees, from the residents, to revise the plan and hopefully come back later this year to go for adoption of the overall master plan. Next slide, please.
Madam Chair, just one thought. You indicated you're going to design trust. I have a problem with that statement because trust is earned. Can't design trust. I think, something more like designing at the speed of trust. or something to that. So it feels like you're doing it with, you're not being authoritarian about it. So it just feels, that doesn't sit well with me personally. I'm just going to let you guys know.
Yeah, words matter.
Madam Chair, before we go to the public art process, if we go back to the previous slide, with the kind of time schedule, one thing that, and maybe to the applicant, if you can speak to this, is how integrated the actual capital improvement projects are within this. So I know that is the master plan coming before anything is being done on the connector? Like, you know, because it'd be great to see those dates and what you see those benchmarks are in concert with the master plan dates as well.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's a great question. We've been working in concert with the North Coast Connector. HNTB is the city's representative on that project. We meet with them every week to make sure what master planners are designing are aligned with what the changes may be happening with the boulevard and the land bridge. And the timeline is this master plan will be completed long before the work starts on North Coast Connector, but this plan would reflect what that plan is.
Good. One other thought, I learned a long time ago from an old mentor of mine, says anyone can collect dots. The smart ones connect them. And you're going to hear this from me every time you come back. And I'm going to say it to Bedrock when they come in, we're creating these nodes, but no one's thinking about how we get there or how to connect it. So I appreciate all this effort, but somehow there needs to be convening authority that starts figuring out how we create an environment that's conducive to what we're trying to achieve. So I just wanted to echo that to everyone.
Thank you.
I think what we just heard was how do we connect all of this stuff? Okay, we have something over here, we have something here, something back here, and it's the same infrastructure. And there's nothing new that brings these together. We've had some conversations about this. So the time to begin to think that and to energize that thinking is now. Not after you're done, not after we find a way to get there, but how do we continue to flow? And how do we flow through the entire downtown district? That's a larger conversation than just the three of you here, or the two of you. Yeah, I agree. And all of these others back here. But Director, we need to really figure out, and Madam Chair, how do we get that conversation moving and moving now, not after the fact?
Thank you. And then I just had a question on the timeline. So Third Space is going to commence the community engagement process in August. Can you talk a little bit about, you said building on what they did a couple years ago, what is the vision? Like, what does the engagement look like? Is it more conversation, surveys? Like, what is the protocol or the methods?
Yeah, so it's all of the above, Madam Chair, because the good part is we have that baseline, and what this master plan is going to propose, we're not going to have pretty renderings of buildings and whatnot. We have focused on what does the street grid look like, what does the public realm look like, and so those are the things we want feedback on. And so those in-person conversations, we're going to heavily focus on the traditionally underrepresented populations here in Cleveland. We specifically have talked through the Hispanic and Arab communities, which we've even further, notoriously, even more than African Americans, we've not been able to connect with. So really focusing on those individuals and how do we connect with them. We've talked to the planning staff too, of making sure that, and this goes to the other committee's comments of, instead of just showing them, look at this lakefront, showing them how you get from your neighborhood to this space as well. Not just through vehicles, not just through bikes, but RCA, like making sure we start showing those connections, because a lot of people don't feel like it's a place that they should be going to or even know it exists. And so to further finish answering your question, there will also be online surveys, which obviously traditionally get a much larger folks outside of the city of Cleveland, but those conversations will be heavily focused on the residents of the city of Cleveland.
And I'm glad to hear that you're looking at the data and seeing where some of those gaps were in populations or neighborhoods from the first round. Thank you.
Just one thought about the kind of tandem thing that you presented with regards to kind of the horizontal and vertical kind of plan, but also the social infrastructure. One thing one with space is community engagement, but also with kind of giving the designers that are not within the city the best kind of understanding of what Cleveland is going to feel about vertical development on the lakefront. And also with regards to, I don't know, the ratio of public space that we will then be going from. I know that there's some conversation with, like, again, the stadium was I mean, it's not a building per se, but like you can maybe think about that ratio in terms of what you're going to be presenting in terms of vertical construction in this new master plan, but being really cognizant about that social infrastructure and kind of the design component about then what are people going to feel when they see this new plan that I don't know, again, the mix and match and ratio and proximity and sizing of things on the lakefront that I think, some of the projects that, were shown from the team that was selected, really top built, like, again, when Clevelanders see this, being very kind of conscious about what that response is going to be, but not thinking about that when we're drawing, but then through the engagement process as well.
Understand. Thank you. And very good comment and appreciate that. I think I will just add in the context of, those large towers like that are very appropriate in downtown San Francisco. And it's a longer conversation with Clevelanders around what is appropriate here, right? Completely understand and agree that, and that'll be built into the process we have moving forward. I will just say, and Jason mentioned this just to put a finer point on it, what we are focused right now isn't actually vertical development. So we're likely not going to be showing this is a 10-story building, this is a 12-story apartment building, but really, like, what is the grid? And to your point, what is the ratio of sort of public to private space within that grid, and what does that look like? And then even zooming out, and it's just in context, right? I mean, when we first were envisioning this lakefront master plan and the last iteration of a master plan, the Rock Hall's expansion hadn't started construction yet. That also includes a 1.2 acre public park between it and the Science Center. Thinking about Burke Airport as potential public space wasn't on the table. So we are really thinking about contextually, to your point as well, Member Whitfield, contextually, how are we zooming out and thinking about what the private space ratios look like across the lakefront and across the entire area. That being said, there is a firm commitment to public space on the stadium site that is not going away at all. But just sort of thinking about it a little bit differently, because again, it is a neighborhood, and you can concentrate space in one area, but then the southeast corner of that site and the northwest corner are quite far away. So thinking about how do we integrate it throughout the entire site as opposed to concentrate it on one area.
There's one other point I wanted to, and I think Jason and I have talked about this. We've known each other for a while, but as we start talking about access, especially with entrepreneurs, we don't do such a great job in the city of acknowledging that those are heavier lifts. Yep. Sometimes things have to be subsidized for longer than we think. Access to wraparound services, right? Like the gentleman in here were talking about the housing project. You have to be more intentional about how you start connecting people to opportunity, not and making it a resilient or sustainable effort. So as you guys start, there's a lot of layers here, I know. Yep. But as you start thinking about this, just because you attract these small, fledgling businesses doesn't necessarily mean they're going to last if you don't think about what that looks like for them as a business model. So I think we have to be very intentional about that as well. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of vacant space.
Agreed.
Evelyn, is it possible, without me being a huge pain, to go back to the slide that had at the very beginning, that had the aerial looking south with the stadium? I have to leave at 11 to get to Novaka. So they've heard this, but I want to share my brainstorm because it builds off of Andrew's idea of how I think the connector and the master plan are. Yeah, that one. Go back. Not that one. The other one. The real one.
The one that says, what is the master plan?
Yes. Okay. So, and I've discussed this with them, and everybody knows my opposition to sacrificing the connectivity of the shoreway for the land bridge. But I see the demolition of the stadium as actually an opportunity to kind of accomplish a couple things. Instead of having a land bridge come out at the ADA or better slope because you're having to come down the hill, I see an opportunity to almost do like a split level land bridge that has a very stark drop off point that maintains the clearance underneath for the roadway to exist. And where it drops off, something we don't currently have, you can't really stand up on the mall and see the sunset
because there's a giant stadium in the way. So if the stadium is gone, this creates an opportunity for us to actually create an amenity at that drop-off point comparable to the Lakewood Solstice steps that can be programmed, that can also be a kind of a layover for people who may not need to go all the way to the lakefront, but it can become kind of Cleveland's answer halfway to create a space to be high up and see the lakefront. And if the master planning of the 50 acres preserves like that summer, like almost like, like Manhattan Henge, preserves that sight line through the site so that during peak summer season, you're going to be able to see the sunset go behind the water without looking at other buildings. I think that'd be a really cool thing that could accomplish a couple, the kind of cost savings of having to truncate the shoreway. So I throw it out here as something I've mentioned to the team of something that I think would be worth discussing of can the land bridge adjust itself, no longer having to accommodate the stadium, and is it worth looking at these two items as that much more linked together? So I share it before I have to leave to get to a NOACA meeting. So.
If you could go back up onto a.
Good morning. To the chair, I am here to just provide a little bit of framing around art in the public realm. And I had the great opportunity to reflect on, if you go back to that slide, as cities as containers, at the Cleveland Museum of Art, along with nationally represented experts in the field and artists, as it relates to the exhibition by Martin Puryear, who did lots of work in the public realm. The overwhelming majority of our public art in the public realm is conceived of and funded by outside of government. So individual artists, developers, destination partners, et cetera, are the drivers for a large majority of the work in the public realm that happens in the city of Cleveland. So our work in the city is to be the container. We hold and carry permission for public safety and the integration of the work in the fabric around it. This additional brief lens just provides historical context for large-scale public art that has been donated to the city, as you see here. The three works that are in front of you now, and I know this body is probably very familiar with these three works, come from different decades and couldn't look more different from one another, but they share an important framework. And that framework is, each of them were controversial when they arrived to the city of Cleveland. Noguchi's portal on the left was called an above ground sewer line. The free stamp was rejected by the company that commissioned it and sat in storage for years. Jim Dine's Cleveland Venus, which is in the middle there, divided the city the day she went up. Each was funded by philanthropy, which is important to note. And this project that we're talking about is being funded by philanthropy. Portal by the Gun Foundation, the free stamp, as I mentioned, a corporate gift to the city with no public dollars spent on their origin. And that is the same focus here. Each sits, however, on a public plot of land held and carried by the city. Controversial, then beloved, privately funded, publicly held by master artists and on public ground. So that's the important through line that we are inviting you to hear about this project through. And it runs more than 50 years deep. So while the work before you today may sound new, it does stand on a long tradition of artists donating works to the city of Cleveland through an outside funding source. Each of these arrived with a big, bold idea offered to the city. We held it, we cited it, cared for it, and let the public catch up to it. That's really the work in front of us now as we consider all of this. And I'll hand it over to the Mischief team to provide more context about the project that they're going to put in front of us today.
Hello. Can I confirm that my microphone is working before I roll right into this?
Yes, we hear you very well. Thank you.
Lovely. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name's Kevin. I'm one of the founding members of the artist group Mischief. There's two other team members on the call with me today. I would like to provide a very quick overview of Mischief, since I'm not assuming that you are familiar with us. And there's a particular kind of philosophy that reappears in our work that I'd like to focus on. So Mischief is a highly multidisciplinary arts group, and we have made everything from video games to sneakers to books to furniture, what have you. We're internationally represented by Periton Gallery, you know, one of the premier blue chip galleries. But we also have an artist practice that is very much outside of what I would call the established white box of the art world system. And it is focused around engaging large groups of people in unorthodox paradigms that are often interactive and that often use a physical object as an anchor point for something that can be nationally or even globally engaged with. I'm going to talk you through two quick examples because I think it's just easier. The first of which is on the screen right now. This is an artwork called ATM Leaderboard that we debuted at Art Basel a few years ago. And it is, on the one hand, a sculpture, and on the other hand, it is an interactive system. So it is if you go back, please, it is a modified ATM with a digital leaderboard screen on top of it. And every person who uses the ATM has their bank balance saved and their photograph taken, and they are ranked by the amount of money in their bank account on this leaderboard, which becomes a record of everyone who has touched the object over its lifespan. So now if you go forward, these are two images of people using it while in that art fair environment, and which, as an interesting side note, every ATM has this camera on it. They just don't tell you they're taking the photos. It's usually for security purposes. And the object became sort of this like broad reaching wealth commentary. It became so popular that the fair had to move its location, had to add additional security, had to reconfigure its walls to support sort of the group of people that were using it. And it became a jumping off point for some very compelling crowd dynamics about what it means to kind of work up the courage to put yourself out there in this way, in this incredibly, revealing moment in front of a crowd as it relates to money, which is obviously highly contentious. If you go next, this is another project which is called Key for All. And this was originally a 2004 PT Cruiser, lovely junky car, had the nice, vinyl paneling on the sides. It also has a particular, old style RFID unlock mechanism where you have your key fob and you click it and it goes, the lights flash, it goes beep, beep, you can hop in, you can drive it. And because it's a relatively older version of that, you can pair an arbitrary number of keys to this same car. So we made 5,000 keys, all of which would let anyone who had one unlock and drive this same vehicle, which we then released onto the streets with a geolocator in it for all of those key holders. And the keys were sold online. They were purchased by people in every state in the US. And we created this car as kind of like a traveling commons, if you will. If you find it, you hop in, you drive it, you go to the grocery store. But as soon as you park it and walk away from it, odds are someone is going to swoop in and pick it up from under you. And if you go next, this car was on the road for 9 months. It crossed the country. It went through the Southwest. It went up to Vegas. It was driven by thousands of people in that time who, as we see, coordinated to hand it off between each other, coordinated to repair it, coordinated to repaint it many, many, many times over. At one point, it was entirely glow in the dark. But once again, we have this paradigm where there is a physical anchor that becomes the catalyst for a type of mass audience engagement that reaches far beyond the thing itself. And in this case, it includes also a vast spectator audience, because everyone who engaged with this vehicle basically was TikToking themselves all the while. So this project is viewed by hundreds of millions of people billions of times. And I set this up as a primer because we're really here to talk today about the physical parameters of a proposed large-scale public artwork on the lakefront as part of all of this. And we can roll next. This is going to be a big text slide. My apologies. Similar to these other projects, in a different way, obviously, and at a different type of scale, this is a project that involves a large physical construction as a vector to engage people's attention across the country, and we hope, this is our ambition for our work all the time, around the globe. So fundamentally, the construction that we are proposing here involves 250 sculptural figures, each of which are 10 feet tall, spaced 10 feet apart in concentric rings. And they are placed in this way so that there is an overall shape to the public artwork. It is a great circle. And it can be read as such from a distance. However, it's also very important to us that it is made up of these individual parts. And each one of these figures is a combination of two sculptural approaches. It involves a sort of abstract, generalized human form in bronze up to about the collarbone. And seated atop it is a sculpted stone bust. And each of these busts will be a portrait of an individual person who lives in the country. And there is a associated, again, in this model, online process, sort of what I would consider to be a performance that this is a stage for, that will, through essentially a combination of both random draw and direct vote, select 250 people to be the faces in this monument. In this way, we say it's a rejection of the great man theory of statuary, where you have a single figure that's a stand-in for what have you, God, country, or cause. And we're supposed to, read ourselves in that figure. We are sort of proposing with this fundamentally the idea that a populational snapshot is in fact the most faithful portrait of a people, a place, a country at a particular moment in time. And so I think there's also an interesting dichotomy that we set up here between what this project is in the process and the moment of its construction, which will begin in the very near term, and what it becomes over time as the sculptures are developed and fabricated on a rolling basis. And eventually, as we look into the future, and I think part of the ambition for public art, you must consider the idea that it's going to exist in 100, 200 years, that these faces will enter history in the way that the faces of all sculptures do, as people who were once specific and recognizable, but by virtue of existing over time, gain this kind of symbolic status.
Kevin, sorry to interrupt. We have about 10 more minutes. And so I just want to make sure that we are able to see and also invite planning staff up to provide additional commentary and take some questions. So if we can just move on along a bit more, that would be great.
I am so sorry. I get excited. You guys take it away. I'll note that all of this is placed specifically on a grass field with the idea that it delineates a public park space. And that is also a core part of the vision here. And the rest of this, you have the documents.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. So as Kevin mentioned, the proposed public art would be in this location here, the northeast corner of the stadium site, right next to the Mather. As you can see, you can go next slide, Evelyn. Just getting a little closer to understand specifically, next slide, sorry. The site context. So this is where, if you've been down, and I hope you have been, to the North Coast Yard, this is where our temporary activation is currently on the site. So the proposed location of this public art is in this location. The yard will likely move into another portion of the site as we continue to activate it as successful as it has been. Here's a portion of the design showing how this would integrate into the larger master plan that we mentioned earlier, showing that this central space with a, with the green turf and the four concentric rings around it, how it can be a public space that connects to the waterfront and provides the opportunity, as Kevin mentioned, for people to interact with the overall art pieces. Next slide. And the next one too. Just so a close-up showing the concentric rings. There'll be about a 50-foot buffer as well, so that the small activations we do around it do not impact the artist's anticipation for what the space should look like and feel. And here's just a cross section of this overall of the art piece. And then next slide. And just lastly, looking at it from the north to the southeast, how the piece of art would integrate into the overall site. Next slide. And then lastly, schedule. This combines the schedule we talked about earlier, but we will be back in front of these relative committees with design review and planning commission later this month to give more detailed proposal of this proposed art, and then integrating into the master planning process as well, as I mentioned earlier, timeline wise. Next slide. That's it.
Thank you so much. Dan, you want to come up?
So I don't have a staff report today.
Please come up so like post it here. Thank you.
I don't have a staff report today. I'm happy to summarize the design review committee's comments if you'd like. But I think with the short time, it's more important to hear from you today. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you all for the presentations. Thank you to the Mischief team as well. Commission members, comments, questions? And again, this is for information only at this stage.
I know that it's hard to provide any level of comment when, I know folks are in the pot cooking, right? And I know that there's a lot of coordination with regards to the individual art piece, but then also the master planning process. To Rhonda's comments about kind of this history of being gifted art and public opinion maybe catching up to the idea of artists and so on and so forth. I think the examples that you propose are quite interesting with regards to kind of my overarching kind of comment about the integration of public space. I think all three of those are not really great public spaces. They're maybe individual art pieces that are great, but not really great public spaces, right? I think like you cross the lawn to get to the free stamp with the gravel underneath. Maybe you touch it, maybe you look at it. The park adjacent is not really well occupied aside from the food truck days. And I think, while we have the opportunity here to get another landmark art piece, it is going to be within the public realm. I think the integration of the public realm, both in the aspect of when we're thinking about folks coming here for large exodus, for large celebration, but the average everyday Clevelander should be thought about just in concert with the art. I mean, almost like while you're thinking about materiality, you should be thinking about that context as well. Like I don't think they're two separate things. I think and again, I know this is early, and we're kind of ruminating on what this really means, but I have to really say this is a non-negotiable thing, right? In terms of our continued review of this. I just want to set the kind of expectation that personally I will be thinking about that as a landscape architect and part of this body. And I think it only will strengthen the art in terms of everything that you're trying to aspirationally achieve in terms of what it means right now, but then in the 100 years and continued kind of appreciation for it. So I just want to kind of say that.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Wag the Dog? Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, Anne Heche?
Yes.
Where they created this sort of ruse that there's a war going on. I think it was in Albania, but anyway, as a rule, I never comment on art because it's in the eye of the artist, and once you release it, you don't own it anymore. we own it. So that's how it works in my mind, at least. I have to piggyback on Mr. Sargent. I think context is everything. And, I don't know how the particular site was selected. I don't know how it's integrated into the bigger picture, because that's important. And so, which goes back to my original comment about designing that dispute of trust. It's almost like we're trying to rush this in, and we haven't started the planning process for the entire lakefront. So it's just my observation. Obviously, I think it's critically important that we get it right. I've been on this planet for 63 years, and I can't think of a time where we didn't talk about what the heck we're going to do on the lakefront. Even back when Municipal Stadium was there. So, this is it, man. If we're going to do this, we got to do it right. The highway to heaven. I'm sorry, the land bridge. Everything needs to be curated in a way that reflects thoughtfulness, inclusiveness, and actually intentionality. And so I just fear that if we get too far ahead of ourselves, we might miss opportunities. Thank you.
And if I can comment to both of you, so completely agree with everything that was just said. We are thinking about what is surrounding this piece through the lens of the many presentations we've given you all about the North Coast Yard. What are ways to activate the site, to encourage people to get down here, to be involved with the space, and to create a nice, to your point, public space around it. So it's not just one piece sitting sort of on its own, but integrates it. Please.
Even continue, Scott. I want to set the framing of this is not public space around the piece.
Yes.
The whole thing.
Yes. Yes, completely. Yes, that's what I intended to say. Did not articulate clearly. And to August's comments, the purpose of this is to bring this to you so it's not a complete surprise when we show this integrated into a master plan. So when we come back to you for a final review, the master plan will have been released, and we'll be able to give you full context for sort of what is around it. And how it fits into a broader master plan. And working with MVRDV and DLR Group, that has been a core piece of this as well, that this has to integrate within a broader plan, and thinking about how it does that with the rest of the site. So that we'll bring this to you now so we can introduce you to the project. So we are talking, so we can talk later about how it fits into the overall master plan.
You know what? It would have been incredibly impactful if you had the two timelines side by side in your chart. You follow what I'm saying? You're asking me to remember what you showed me an hour ago. Ain't that smart? So that's helpful in context.
There are no other comments or questions. I think we will.
While we have the benefit of having the artist on the line, and thank you for the presentation, I have the joy of having a small toddler at home, and as I've sort of been digesting this large scale art piece, I wonder if you could speak a little bit to the type of experience that you envision, and sort of drawing from Commission Member Sargent's remarks, both in terms of large scale events, like a bunch of people in this area, and then thinking of me with my family there. Is it intended to be sort of a solemn experience? Is it intended to be, we talked about joy already as one of the things, one of the values permeating the lakefront and our physical design, as well as that social infrastructure. So I would love to just hear sort of your ideal experience from the eyes of a Clevelander. And then I think that really will help clarify for us as we get more into design in future meetings, how those two things match up.
Sure. Yeah, happy to speak to that a little bit. I'll try to keep it shorter this time. I think that for starters, we want the entire surface area that we're activating here to be as accessible to a pedestrian as possible. It's one of the things that we've really been looking at in terms of distance spacing. Everything is obviously a little bit geometrically simplified here, but we want this to be extremely permeable. Like our hope is that this kind of feels like you walk through the rows of an orchard to access a field in the middle. And I think that, with the 10-foot offset that we have, we're in a pretty good spot from the testing that we've done. I hope that everyone can use this grass to catch sun when it's warm out, to throw a frisbee. I think one of the things that's going to be very interesting about this is, again, that these are candidates as sculptures go, and so part of this experience is, for I think a lot of people in the end, is in fact seeing who you recognize. I think that there's a real degree to which the way that all of these portraits come together, you are looking at who these faces are, in contrast to, say, for example, like the rows and rows of figures on the side of a cathedral who are all kind of like, they're some guy theoretically, maybe they were the sculptor's brother in 1450. We want this to contain, real humans, and you're going to know some of them. And I think, there's an interaction where somebody will fly across the country because their uncle is one of these faces and they are making that pilgrimage. And I think that's going to be like a really unique experience. I would like it to be casual, basically, and approachable. This is not a memorial, right? These are not people who are dead. In fact, it is very specifically people who are alive, who are participating in, the process of this coming together. So I think that, again, we talk about sort of how you have to consider these different time scales, but as we are looking to create this thing, I think this is going to be one of the most living statues that there is.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. I guess I'll just underscore that one of the contexts of Cleveland is that we do have an abundance of unprogrammed lawn space very close to this area. And that is a theme that has carried through the lakefront engagement and also carries through our work to create a really active, engaging, dynamic, welcoming waterfront experience. So look forward to continuing to work with you as you develop your concepts. And we're very excited about the potential here.
Just one small comment with regards to the lawn thing, just as precedent, and these are kind of two ends of the spectrum, potentially looking again, and this is not to say in terms of form, but in terms of kind of context of a public space that has a number of sculptures within it, that has other elements that could provide kind of respite or kind of interest. Take a look at the FDR Memorial in DC. As well as I think it's Tom Anderson's, I'm forgetting the name of the sculptures, the series of sculptures in Battery Park. And again, it's not necessarily that you exemplify these things, but again, that kind of context that I'm trying to hope you guys reach to with regards to kind of situating a series of sculpture, a series of art pieces in a public space context that is comfortable for everyday use. And I think some interesting kind of illuminations could be taken from both those projects. Again, on opposite side of the spectrums in terms of the scale, and then also kind of austere appearances of some of the materiality around it.
One piece I would just love to add is we did, as we started this conversation, we reached out to local and national artists, members of academia, landscape architects, etc., to kind of get some preliminary feedback about the project. So I do want you all to know that we did do some of that feedback work with folks that you are referencing.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see you all.
Excited, by the way.
We'll see you all in a couple months. Thank you so much for the presentation today. All right, we are nearing the end of our meeting. We do have a presentation on the Midline project. However, I think the director has an update on where things stand with that.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. In the interest of time, the site readiness team is electing to strike this from the agenda today. As many of you know and have been invited to, there is a tour of the Midline happening directly after City Planning Commission with a couple of commissioners and several staff from the city. Those of you, I know many commissioners are not able to make this and so can connect with site readiness after this meeting, but before they come back. I do want to say that your comments at the last meeting have been wholly embraced by the Site Readiness Fund team. And so what you'll see is sort of an initial touch today of background information and the invitation to become more familiar with the site on the ground. They will be returning on July 24th with a high-level master plan presentation for us, as well as a revisiting of the American Sugar Demolition. And then in August, they'll be coming back to really dig into two key elements of the master plan, which include specific design guidelines, as well as some zoning recommendations that begin to drill down into the sort of transactional, tactical elements that are highlighted in their plan and in their work under this initiative. So I just wanted to give that context. And I'll invite Mr. Whitehead or anyone from Site Readiness Fund who would like to add anything to feel free to do so.
The plan is.
So the recommendation would be to adjourn our planning commission meeting right now.
Perfect. A quick question though. I'm Brad Whitehead. Hey, good to see you, Tony. Who is and is not joining the tour? Because I think what the plan would be is we could do a presentation we were talking about doing maybe on the drive over, do the tour, but I would like to know. Okay, we got a bus. I think it even has water in it. Is anybody not on? Are you going with us?
Yeah, if I can just
Okay, we'll
clarify
put you separately.
procedurally that we have 3 planning commission members joining the tour. Just for the record, that is not a quorum, so this is not a portion of this public meeting. We will connect you with the other planning commission members to complete sort of contextual setting for those who are not able to join us today. So we'll make sure that everyone has the same background and starting point for the July 24th conversation that's back in the public meeting setting.
Perfect. But I believe, August, are you on the bus with us or are you driving separately? We're just trying to figure out whether one of us jumps in the car with you, but if you're on the bus with us, we're good. Okay, we're good. Thank you. See you on the bus.
So my director's report is very short this morning. I just wanted to introduce in person Nick Tarpey, who I've announced before, but he's here with us in person. He's our new deputy manager in zoning. He's been with the city since the beginning of June, so maybe a month, almost exactly. So this is Nick. It's been great to have him so far, and we're really excited to have him as part of our team.
Welcome. With that being said, happy early birthday to Evelyn. And also, thank you all for being present today. Our next meeting is Friday, July 24th, and this July 24th, excuse me, and this meeting is adjourned.